I used to have the worst memory for French vocabulary. I would learn a word maybe on Monday, write it in my notebook, perhaps even create a flashcard. And by Friday, gone, completely forgotten. It was so frustrating. I would study the same words over and over and they just wouldn't stick. I started to think maybe my brain just wasn't built for languages. Have you ever felt this way? And I'm going to be honest with you, memorizing vocabulary was one of my biggest struggles. I wasted so much time learning words the wrong way, but then I changed my approach and everything shifted. Je m'appelle Sunmoluwa, j'ai appris le français à l'âge adulte et grâce à cette langue, j'ai pu m'installer au Canada. And currently, I'm preparing for the DELF C1 exam. Now, I'm going to share with you exactly how I memorize everything I learned in French and actually remember it. These are the methods I still use now. Before I share what works, let me explain why most people forget what they learn. Problem 1, you're memorizing words in isolation. You see a word, perhaps étonné. You learn the translation, which means surprised, and you move on. But your brain has nothing to attach it to. No story, no context, no emotion. Just a random word floating in your memory with nothing to hold on to. And isolated information is the first thing your brain deletes. Problem 2, you're not reviewing at the right time. There is something called the forgetting curve. Scientists discovered that we forget most of what we learn within 24 to 48 hours unless we review it. But most people don't review. They learn something once and assume it's in their brain forever. It's not. Problem 3, you're only seeing words, not using them. Reading a word is passive. Your brain recognizes it, but it doesn't have to work hard. Whereas using a word in speaking or writing is active. Your brain has to retrieve it, which strengthens the memory. If you only ever see words but never use them, they stay weak in your memory. And so those are the 3 problems: isolation, no review, and passive learning. Now, let me show you how to fix them. The first thing I changed, I stopped memorizing words in isolation. Instead, I started learning words inside context, inside sentences, inside stories. Here's what I mean. When I read a book in French and I see a new word, I don't just write down the word and the translation. I write down the entire sentence, sometimes even the paragraph. Why? Because now my brain has something to attach the word to. I remember the story, I remember what was happening, I remember the emotion. And when I try to recall the word later, all of that context helps me to retrieve it. For example, I didn't learn the word étonné from a vocabulary list. I learned it from a story where a character was surprised by something. I remember the scene, I remember the feeling, and now I remember the word. This is how your brain naturally learns. Think about your native language. You didn't learn words from flashcards as a child. You learned them from real situations, real conversations, real life. French should be the same. So when you encounter a new word in a book, in a podcast, or a video, pay attention to the context. If you want, you can write down the full sentence and let your brain build connections. The second method that changed everything, spaced repetition. Remember the forgetting curve? That you forget most of what you learn within 48 hours unless you review it. But here's the key. You don't need to review every day forever. You just need to review at the right intervals. The first review should happen within 24 hours, then after a few days, then after a week, then after a month. Each time you review, the memory gets stronger and you can wait longer before the next review. This is called spaced repetition. And it's one of the most powerful learning techniques that exists. Now, you can do this manually. Keep a notebook, review your words on a schedule, or you can use an app that does it for you. I've heard a lot of good things about Anki. Anki is quite popular. I've also heard of Quizlets. These apps track what you've learned and remind you to review at the optimal time. So for me, I kept a notebook and reviewed it regularly. And even till date, I still keep a notebook and review regularly. Some other people could decide to combine both. You can use apps and you can use a notebook. The point is, don't just learn something once and forget about it. Build review into your routine. Even just 10 minutes a day reviewing old vocabulary will make a massive difference over time. The third method, actually use the words you learn. This is where most people fail. They learn vocabulary passively. They see it, they recognize it, but they never produce it. And recognition is not the same as recall. Recognition is easy. You see étonné and think, oh yeah, that means surprised. Recall is hard. You're in a conversation. You want to say, I was surprised, and your brain has to retrieve étonné from memory on the spot in real time. These are different skills, and you only build recall by practicing output. And here's what I do. When I learn a new word, I don't just write it down. I force myself to use it. I make a sentence with it out loud. J'étais étonné quand j'ai vu le prix. So you see, I already used the word étonné. I try to use it in a conversation that week, maybe with my tutor or even just talking to myself. I write it in a journal or in a practice essay. The more ways I use a word, the stronger it becomes in my memory. And here's a bonus. When you use a word and make a mistake, you remember it even better because mistakes create emotion and emotion strengthens memory. So don't just collect vocabulary. Use it, speak it, write it, make mistakes with it. The fourth method, connect new words to what you already know. Your brain loves connections. It remembers things better when they are linked to existing knowledge. So when you learn a new word, ask yourself, what does this remind me of? What does it sound like? What can I associate it with? For example, the French word bibliothèque means library. It sounds a bit like bibliography in English, which is also related to books. And now you have a connection. Or the word voyager means to travel. It comes from voyage, which means a journey. So when you hear voyager, imagine yourself going on a long voyage. That mental image will help you remember the word. These connections might seem silly, but silly is memorable. Your brain remembers unusual things. Some people create full stories with their vocabulary words. Some people use images. Some people connect words to personal experiences. Find what works for you, but always try to link new information to what you already know. So let me tell you what my daily vocabulary practice actually looks like. Most mornings, I spend about 10 to 20 minutes on vocabulary. First, I review words from previous days. I use spaced repetition. So, I'm looking at words I learned yesterday, last week, and last month. Just quick reviews to keep them fresh. Then, if I'm reading a book or studying for my DALF C1, I encounter new words. I write them down with a full sentence. And I note any connections or associations that help me remember. Later in the day, I try to use at least one new word, either speaking to myself or with my tutor or even in my writing. That's it. Nothing complicated, but done consistently, it adds up. I don't try to memorize 50 words a day. I focus on fewer words learned deeply. Because 10 words you actually remember are worth more than 100 words you forget. And so in summary, here's how I memorize everything I learn in French. Number 1, learn words in context, not isolation. Write down full sentences, not just translations. Number 2, use spaced repetition. Review at the right intervals so you don't forget. Number 3, actually use the words. Please speak them, write them, make mistakes with them. Number 4, connect new words to what you already know. Build associations, make it memorable. I went from forgetting everything I learned to actually building a vocabulary that I can use. And now I'm preparing for my DALF C1 exam using these same methods. If I can do it, you can do it too. Now, if you're struggling to stay consistent with your French learning, I made a video about my 3-2-1 method. It takes only 6 minutes and it's how I stay consistent even on busy days. I'll link it right here for you. And if you would like a complete roadmap for your French journey, 90 plus topics from A1 to C1 to beginner to advanced, organized week by week, I actually have the perfect French guide for you. So if you're really tired of, just randomly scrolling through YouTube videos, jumping from one podcast to another, and not really knowing what to learn next, then you need an actual plan. I've linked my French fluency guide in the description box below. A lot of people are already using it and really enjoying how clear and practical it is. All you need to do is click on the link in the description box below. It's the first link. So please drop a comment below and tell me, how do you memorize new vocabulary? Do you have a system that works for you or are you still struggling? I would love to know. Please like this video if it helped you. It really helps this channel. And don't forget to share and subscribe if you learned something new today. I post new videos every week to help you in your French journey. So I see you in the next video. Bonne journée.